Walking uphill against the wind in a stormy weather, the summit may seem a mirage. Windy and complex it is, facing the obstacles, making a virtue of a necessity. Difficult to understand, difficult to travel, difficult to maintain in the correct spirit. Radiating it with positivity, making that path that began and that was lost remain a beginning. Only one thought in our mind, enlightenment.
Can you live without a soul? A fascinating question. The beauty of this subject will involve us in this episode of Enlightenment, between discussion and conflicting opinions. An intricate topic by the affirmations made in history, ancient and from the 21st century, on which we do not digress and we affirm supporting the most contemporary studies of the diaphragm as the keeper of the soul. But it is not quite so. It's all about giving a definition to this component, a concrete localization and definition. We still get confused between breath and what the soul really is. If we then add the spirit, more complicated. An interpretation that approaches the most Asian populations, but that becomes more detailed and which in any case is placed on another level, the material and immaterial substance, a homeostasis of body vapor present in various organs including especially the brain, which mixes in the breath but which is composed of pure energy, an important but non-vital component, partial nourishment for a body, as through fantasy legends associate its absorption with the benefit that is actually partial, a momentary benefit from it. The only difference from water vapor is that it possesses intelligent energy, a substance that is produced in minimum quantity on the basis of the goodness of an organism, the purity of the energy, as they are related. Definition of goodness not entirely correct. Not that a pure organism is concretely the goodest, the best. It is often the opposite, but sometimes it is indicative. For us of enlightenment, the soul is one of the many fulcrums of thought preserved in our muscles, a fulcrum by which our feeling and thought are influenced. A fulcrum that can reside in different points of the body, in different muscles, taking the name of soul when it is preserved in the diaphragm. Staying balanced in thought is not such a simple operation. The enlightenment is a champion in doing it, keeping the reasoning without tangling the mind, fluid, even in the most complex thoughts, in the realization of a concept. The fact is that to do it, often a support to remain in balance and precisely not to get tangled is needed, a constant impulse given by the mind in connection with another element, a confrontation, sometimes external with the whole, sometimes internal. It is the case of those who express themselves in thinking. It can be said with the soul in a connection with the chest, a mind and soul connection, but it can also be other muscles where various fulcrums reside, where each muscle has a corresponding fulcrum, based on which point we connect to, we interact with. The experience of losing it and getting it back gave us the possibility of seeing it. How this happened goes beyond science fiction. Let's keep it for a future story. And here's what it is, a more or less pure alternative sphere consecrated in the chest box, in the diaphragm, forming the soul. The origin of the soul is attributed to a mixing of energies that in a lapse of time give birth to the molecule that once is constituted remains recognized as such, as the molecule indicated as soul. Our quest to discover the answer concerning life and soul in relation begins with animism. All tribes claim that in their opposite to veneration gods and spirits are contained, and we believe it, but with a touch of critical sense. I know what you're thinking, we're going one step back to one step forward, as animism for many anthropologists was considered a retrograde culture, a limit to these tribes to what was an advanced society, namely monotheism. What these Asian religious cultures claim is that within every creation of nature there is a spirit, for Westerns interpreted as the soul, the presence of a soul in the immaterial, which is a big debate because they are not exactly the same thing. And here the first discovery, a clear distinction between spirit and soul. Spirit is an aggregate aggregate of energy constituting an entity. The soul is a single molecule of energy. Even the Romans have left traces of their belief in spirits, in characters such as nymphs. It must be said that the Romans were polytheists, therefore they believed in several gods. The concept of soul is explained in different types and subdivisions by cultures. We recognize only one, the soul as energy. Plato, Greek philosopher with his master Socrates, the inventor of the thematic soul, affirmed that the soul was made up of the same substance as the gods. He was not mistaken. He knew this but did not know exactly the method of which the soul was composed. Energy, the alternating sphere, and in the same way gods may be made of. More specifically in this case in another form of energy, energy from goodness, what makes up the gods and spirits, by which follows a concept so compact and impossible to separate, a concept that moves following its own logical thread, an aggregate of energy, a shape, an entity. To Plato, soul is a symbol of purity and spirituality, is akin to ideas. Let's say that the spiritual aspect is a bit divergent because it regards it only from the moment in which there is a cure for it, a matter of how spirituality is understood. What is crucial to be known is the part of purity. To us, the soul is a molecule of energy stored within the chest box, something that is granted, is born with the creation of human and is preserved there unless someone decides to remove it. Therefore it remains a molecule that, like all other energies present in the body of the creator, it affects thinking. It is still a molecule which, even if it was removed, would not particularly affect the life of the creator. We can define it as a surplus to our personality, a fulcrum of our thought, a connection, a sensation, a feeling that rises from the chest and makes us feel complete. Without it we will feel more empty, however irrelevant, created or given, a concept of our thinking that remains there. Now all this is valid, but only for those who use the brain or the heart or the stomach as the main way of thinking, rather than the soul. We perceive the soul as integrated with our consciousness, and the same you put your soul into it or a healthy task for the soul are not wrong at all, when it fills us with energy and satisfies our soul in the same way. The removal of the soul from those who treated it would be a traumatic event, decidedly relevant, felt. Even the soul as well as the other energies gets purified, depending on the purity of the organism and the purity of thought. Is thought a matter of chemistry and nutrients of the organism? Yes. Question: how big can the soul be? The answer is as big as much as it keeps the qualities to maintain its existence, which is 0.19 inches for the soul. Soul, which has always been confused with spirits and animism, two different things. Now what made these objects revert by the tribes is animism. There are many interpretations to this culture, to which we have given a reply. It is specified that animism is the veneration of a spirit that has always existed in the matter, or transferred, and that with veneration is nourished. The center of the question is that a stone remains a stone, but it is no longer a simple stone from the moment it is revered, because its characteristics change. The energy, the spirit at the inside is enriched, nourished, and not created. So yes, everything has a spirit, a concept that binds it to the matter, wherever there are atoms. But don't look at it with the eye of science, if not in part. A perspective seen from above helps more than under a microscope to understand animism. Let's make some examples to understand how soul, spirit and animism work. As to the tribes who venerate the statue or totem, what happens there is an exchange with energy with the totem, a continuous imprint of energy, an exchange with the energy inside it. Intelligent energy, which changes its composition while remaining compact inside the totem, inside the statue, by following the concept. A spirit is not exactly created, but revered, or it can be inserted or transferred. Therefore, it is not the soul contained within the matter that is revered, but the spirit, the energy. The soul is something that only some beings hold, above all because by soul we refer specifically to the one preserved in the diaphragm. This is the animism, where energies that reach a stone give it a personality, changing the composition of the energies contained. Let's take for example a statue, a marble sculpture, which for certain characteristics has the ability to subtract heat also, energy from the outside, even though this relatively interests us. From the moment in which this marble sculpture has been given a shape, it has become such a concept, the same way a stone is or a plant, an interface with its energy, which is preserved inside, which on the basis of our exchange of energy mutates, takes on characteristics and loses others. Basically, based on our desire, everything can be created, thought, energy and time. Here is that an individual with his thoughts creates spirits and everything concerning the energy branch, but it wouldn't be possible if not thanks to luck. In the presence of this element, without it a human is just a human and creations of energy wouldn't come true. Again, luck. Soul is not the secret of life, energy is. So yes, all populations were right, spirits were enclosing the matter, right to be revered, but its interpretation as soul is not appropriate. Energy opens up a large space of knowledge based on what we want to create. Everything is possible. The soul represents a non-essential element for life, but it is better to have it, and as the body, it must be taken care of. As only this construction of energy can be created. A spirit can be contained in an object, and therefore it is right to venerate it. In addition, a personality is attributed to it, otherwise it is the whole that does it. By constantly associating to its form in the environment the characteristics that resemble it, as soon the statue to venerate will make you feel the presence of the character recreated.